Hello there, dear friends, and welcome once again to the Relaxed Fantasy Review. Today, we're continuing our series of chaos builds. We're going to be building a character today that is unplanned and not at all something that I even know what I'm doing at this moment, because it's all going to be determined through the dice rolls. We're going to be covering the basics of D&D and character creation as we design this character from the very beginning and from the ground up. The last time we did this, we did a build where I chose a foundational piece of the build. It was for Kraken Week, but that one was just to get us started. Today we're going to be talking nothing but randomizer. We're going to grab Xanathar's Guide to Everything, because within this amazing book lay the tables for randomizer character creation. We're going to flip over here to page 61. This is your life. And within this, we're going to build a character from the story this time. The origins of your story are actually inside the tables of this chapter. Straight away, at page 62, you've got where you were born. This means we're actually going to be using our second page and discussing our character's backstory. Here in this table, we've got all the different places that we could have potentially been born. We're going to grab our D100 over here, and we're going to roll it to see where we were born. We rolled a 71. According to the table, a 71 means we were born literally in the middle of a field. So, field birth. Now, why is that? Well, that's something we're going to figure out as we go. We were born in a field. Now, it also gives us the choice of how many siblings we have over here on page 63. So let's give the D10 a little roll here. That is a 0, so that means that, which is actually a 10, technically. So that means that we have siblings 1d8 plus 3. We'll roll the d8 real quick. Oh, but it's just a 1. Okay, so we have 4 siblings. It also gives us the option of what order we were born in. So basically, are we the oldest, youngest, or somewhere in the middle? The 2d6s have rolled us up a 7. That means that we are the oldest of those 5 children that our parents had. We also get to choose right here what our family life was like. Now, obviously, we determined how we were born, but where were we raised? What kind of family were we given? The D100 says 88. That simply means we were raised by our mother and father. Raised by mom and dad. Not the most common thing in a fantasy setting, but here we are. Then we get to choose our family lifestyle. How did we live? That is a 3d6 table there, for a total of 10, which basically means we lived a modest life. But where? See, this family lifestyle table actually has modifiers built into it, which can add or subtract from our next table on the page over, our childhood home. We roll the D100 and add the modifier from our lifestyle. The modest lifestyle that we rolled before just means that there is nothing we add or subtract. We just take the straight roll, which is a 30. That means we had no permanent residence. So a modest life on the road. So we were travelers as a family. That's interesting. We also get to choose some childhood memories. Basically, was our childhood traumatic? Let's find out. We rolled ourselves a 12. This means we had a few close friends and an ordinary childhood. So even though we were on the road a lot, we were generally happy with our life. Interesting. Next up, we have to choose from one of the 13 backgrounds in the player's handbook. The last time I did this, I rolled a d12 and just said I was going to leave one of them off, but I have a better solution for this. d6 plus d8. This gives us an option potential of 2 through 14, which means we can roll anything from anything that isn't a 1 on that 14 scale, which is 13 numbers. So let's go ahead and roll that. Rolled ourselves a 9. So that would be the 8th background. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Interesting. We are a noble family. That's not what I saw coming. A noble background. So how does that work? How do you live on the road in a modest life if you're a noble? This is why I like doing this. You have to make it make sense. Now, there is actually a table here for the noble backgrounds, a d6 that says, I became a noble because, which is a d6 table. And we rolled a 6. I became a noble because I hope to increase my family's power and influence. Aha! So, the noble background, to increase family power and influence. So maybe we didn't start off as a noble. Maybe we ran for public office, or maybe we had some kind of special chance to raise our family status. Maybe this is A Knight's Tale, where we were a traveling family of combatants and we won a local title, though that actually makes a lot of sense. Now the next portion is for classes, so we have to skip a few pages ahead and go to the class list. What class are we? Once again, this is a 12 class table, which does not include the artificer. So rather than rolling on that table, I'm simply going to once again grab my d8 and 6 because there are 13 classes. I'll roll these dice and do the same sort of thing I did before alphabetically. What are we going to be as our class? We rolled a 4 and a 7. That's an 11. So, not the artificer, unfortunately. So barbarian would be the top. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. We are a sorcerer? To choose that, we'll flip back to our first page here and write in our class sorcerer. Interesting. Very, very interesting. So a noble background from a modest life, suddenly now we have sorcerer levels. And thankfully, right here on page 68, why did we become a sorcerer? Another d6 table. Reason number 1. When I was born, all the water in the house froze solid, the milk spoiled, or the iron turned to copper. My family's convinced this event was a harbinger of stranger things to come. Okay, so supernatural phenomena at birth foretold sorceress origin. Okay, so that would have happened before the family entered into the noble ranks. Maybe this is one of those things that we tried to keep secret when I became a noble and when the family rose in its status. But then, eventually, it's gonna come out. Now, the very next thing here is a section called Life Events. Life Events helps us determine, 1, how old we are, and 2, how many major events have happened to us, which again is a massive section in the book. But it's a D100 table, which lets us roll for our age. 97. That is not how many years old we are, by the way. That's a section of the table. And it says that that means we are between the ages of 51 and 60. So let's just put here that we are 55. Our powers were a little later on set in life. It also means we can roll a d10 for life events. And we got a 7. So we have to roll on this life events table 7 times to describe our background. So let's start off on the life events table. First off, a 77. We went on an adventure. Let's roll on the adventures table to see what happened to us. 68. That says we were terribly frightened by something that we encountered and ran away, abandoning our companions. Oh gosh. So, frightening adventure. And we abandoned friends. Maybe something that happened very young in our life. All right, next life event. 27. Fell in love or got married. That actually could be tied to the last one, including young love. So, we had a frightening adventure in which we abandoned both our friends and our young love. Next up was a 70. 70. Spent our time working in a job. Okay, so that's just a way to get us extra gold at the beginning. So, job. Earnings. Put that here in our treasure section. So that is 3 so far. We got 4 to go. 81 is next. You had a supernatural experience of some kind. That would be right here in supernatural events. 66, oh dear. You explored an empty house and found it to be haunted. Frightening adventure. So, in a haunted house. Now, for the record, you do not have to make all of these link together. The reason I'm doing this is because I am building this character from nothing, from thin air. So having them all kind of work as a big piece is a really good way to do it. Okay, so that would be 4 things. Let's get our 5th. Roll a 91. That is a crime. Okay, so we have a crime and punishment that took place. We got ourselves a D8 table for crime. Rolled a 3. That's burglary. We were accused of burgling the old home, the old house. And what happened to us after that was done? Roll the d12. We did not commit the crime and we were exonerated. Okay, so found innocent, basically. Because we weren't there to burgle it. We were there probably because we were young and stupid kids. Okay, that's 5. We got 2 more to go for life events. Rolled a straight 90. That is at a battle, a war table. Oh, this is getting more and more crazy. The D12 is for the war table. Roll a 1. We were knocked out and left for dead. Woke up hours later with no recollection of the battle. So we have an old... So fought in a battle. Actually, this would be a separate event. This would be later in life. So we lost our friends, including a young lover, to an incident in a haunted house. Then later, kind of in our normal adult life, this probably would have happened when we were in our 20s, and then this would have happened in our 30s or 40s. Fought in a battle and lost memory. All right, 1 more life event to roll. And we got a 13. That is a boons thing. We got a bit of good fortune. Maybe that happened after the battle, but that is a D10 table. Roll on that, we got a 7. You once performed a service for a local temple, and the next time you visit the temple, they will heal you. So after this battle, we found ourselves in a temple where they helped us after we lost our memory. So, taken in by temple. Which is interesting because that actually goes against the nobility thing. That actually talks a little more about being an acolyte. But maybe we were nobility, before all of this happened. So we were raised in an ordinary, normal, modest childhood, found our way into a noble home in order to raise our influence. Then, when I was a young adult, there was a traumatic incident where we explored a haunted house, me and some young friends. We were accused of burgling it, but we were found innocent. However, our friends got left behind and no longer were our friends, or maybe they died. Lynn, in our 30s, we fought in a battle, probably under the noble background, but lost our memory and were taken in by a temple. So we've got the amnesia thing going on here. In any case, we've got all of this now as our backstory. The last thing that we need to determine is, what are we? We've got the races here in a table, another D100 table where the final section of it, the 96 through 0, is DM's choice. The other 9 are from the player's handbook. If we happen to roll DM's choice, then I'll pull a rare race from Monsters of the Multiverse. But for now, let's stick with the basic 9. Yep, we rolled a 51. 51 makes us an elf. Now, in the player's handbook, there's 3 different kinds of elves. And I'll roll a d6 to determine... Actually, no. I'll roll a d4. 1 is high elf, 2 is wood elf, 3 is drow, and 4 can be one of the rarer elves from Monsters of the Multiverse. And I rolled a 2. So that means that we are a wood elf. A wood elf that rose to nobility status, but had sorceress underlying powers. Lost their friends in a frightening haunted incident. Maybe their sorcerer's powers drew the haunted energies of the house to us. Our friends abandoned us. We lost our memory in a fight in a war. And then we were taken in by a temple. And because of the temple, we actually can pick our subclass from there. Because these randomizer tables don't have subclasses in them. But sorcerers get to choose that at level 1. So we will be a divine soul. That actually makes sense for the temple. That's where our powers awoke later in life. We have the noble background here. We also can roll for alignment if you want to. It's not a super concern of mine normally, but the 3d6 table, we roll 16, which makes us either lawful good or lawful neutral. Let's go ahead and be lawful good. Let's say that after we lost our memory, we just were taken in by a very good-hearted temple people, and they basically taught us to live life correctly. So, we know what we are, we know where we came from. Time to roll for our stats. We got our 4d6s here. Roll them, drop the lowest one, and that'll give us our stats. Got ourselves an 11. That is an 8. Oh boy. Can't all be winners. 13. 15. Nice. 9. And the last one, an 11 again. Okay, so actually very similar to a standard array. 15, 13, 2 11s, an 8, and a 9. Okay, decent little setup there. So we can pull Xanathar's away for the moment. Let's get into the Player's Handbook. Player's Handbook will have all the things we need to build our Wood Elf Divine Soul Sorcerer. Starting with, of course, the elves themselves. Elven traits include Dark Vision, because everyone wants it. Keen Senses, that is proficiency in perception, right there. And then Fey Ancestry, giving us advantage against charm and immunity to sleep. Speaking of sleep, we also have our Trance, giving us those classic 4-hour-long rests. Our proficiencies are down here. Languages, weapons, armor, and tools. Important to know those. And for this particular one, we have the languages Common and Elvish. Then our sub-race, that is the Wood Elf. We get elf weapon training, proficiency in long sword, short sword, longbow, and short bow. That is relevant because we don't get those as a sorcerer. So we'll remember those for a little bit later, but long sword, short sword, short bow, and longbow. Our weapons there. And then we have our walking speed as a Wood Elf, 35 feet. As well as the feature, Mask of the Wild. Letting us hide when we are lightly obscured by nature things. Now we can flip away from Wood Elf and over towards Sorcerer. Our Sorceress origin grants us a d6 hit die, 1d6, and it grants us no armor proficiencies, so none, and no tool proficiencies, although we might get those from Noble. And then we have a few weapons, daggers, darts, and slings, as well as quarterstaffs, and light crossbow. With all these weapons here, it really makes our armor look lonely. We are granted proficiency in Constitution and Charisma saving throws. And we do get 2 skill proficiencies, but let's skip for a moment over to the background section and have a look at the noble proficiencies. We are given proficiency in History and Persuasion, as well as 1 extra language. If we were Wood Elves, Sylvan is an absolute classic. And a type of gaming set proficiency. There's a couple of them in the game, but we'll just stick with chess. So we are proficient with a chess set. And we get a nice little feature, Position of Privilege. Which basically means that the commoners will treat us with a certain amount of respect, probably because of the way we carry ourselves, because we don't actually remember our background. But now that we know what skills we get from our background, we can choose a little better from Sorcerer. We can go with Religion, that fits in with our backstory, and let's say Arcana, with our natural inflection towards magic. Then there is some equipment we start with. We can start with any simple weapon or a crossbow. Let's go ahead and start with a quarterstaff. And that can be our arcane focus. It can just be a staff that we channel our magic through. We'll take an explorer's pack, which is one of the options, and a pair of daggers, which is automatically given to us. So, that is our baseline sorcerer. We can now choose where our stats are going to go. Obviously, we have our +2 proficiency bonus, but in order to determine our armor class and our hit points and our attack bonuses and the rest of it, we have to put these numbers somewhere. So let's say, with our +1 from the Wood Elf, we will throw that into Charisma, giving us a 16. That's our 15 gone. Our +2. Let's put our +2 with the 13, and then that'll give us a 15 Constitution, which doesn't leave us with a whole lot. So an 11 for Dexterity. Let's say an 11 for Wisdom. And then we got a 9 in Intelligence and an 8 in Strength, giving us those lovely -1 modifiers. Which means that at least we've got a 15-16 in our lineup. Constitution saves we're proficient in, so that's a 4. Charisma saves a 5. And as far as our skill proficiencies, we got a -1 to Intelligence, but we are proficient in Arcana, History, and Religion, so we actually still get a 1 in those skills, even though we are not intelligent. Our Perception, we got a +2 with a 0 in Wisdom, and our Persuasion is our only good skill with our Charisma at +3. Passive Perception is 12, Perception modifier +10. And with a 2 Constitution and a d6 hit die, that leaves us with a grand total of 8 hit points at level 1, and with a 0 in our Dexterity, an armor class of 10. The squishy sorcerer indeed. Even though we're proficient with our quarterstaff, we have a minimum strength, so we've only got a +1 to hit with it, and it does a d6 -1. Our daggers, a little bit better, +2 to hit, with a 1d4 +0. So, combat is not our strong suit. However, we do have one more thing to talk about, and that, of course, is our spell casting. Oh yes, sorcerer. Is a charisma caster. And because we have a 16 charisma, our spell save DC is 13. Our attack bonus is +5. As a level 1 sorcerer, we get to know 4 cantrips and 2 first level spells. We'll flip over here to the sorcerer spell list. Now, obviously, some of the other books have expanded upon this, but for now, we'll just stick with the player's handbook and the list that's provided to us here, as well as the list in Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, which expanded the sorcerer list, as it did with pretty much every casting class. So we got ourselves a nice list of spells here and here. For cantrips, I like to build my cantrips with a both utility and attack in mind. So let's go ahead and take our 2 utility cantrips. How about Minor Illusion, an absolute pivotal pick, and Prestidigitation. Another classic. And then we need 2 attacking cantrips. Again, we can take Firebolt, a classic pick for a sorcerer, and how about from Tasha's, we take Mind Sliver, a great debuffing cantrip. Then we get 2 first level spells to choose from. We are incredibly squishy, and I don't think that Mage Arbor is going to help us out a whole lot. So let's go again with a utility and a combat-focused cantrip. Combat focus, what do we choose? Magic Missile's a classic. But let's go ahead and choose Burning Hands. And we also have 2 spell slots per long rest to cast them with. And as far as our utility cantrip goes, or our utility first level spell goes, how about we go with something a little more charismatic? Charm Person, for when our normal charisma doesn't work for us. So yeah, we have ourselves a fully fleshed out sorcerer build here. 4 cantrips, 2 spells, a backstory with some complicated stuff, and stats all built out. Everything has been finished, and this character is ready to play. So here is our Divine Soul Sorcerer. Oh wait, I forgot. There is one more thing to talk about. Because we're a sorcerer, we get our subclass at level 1, and that means we actually have to have a look at what the Divine Soul Sorcerer gets. So, let's open Xanathar's back up for one more moment and have a look at the Divine Soul. Divine Souls get Divine Magic, and that actually means that our alignment was important, because we choose an affinity for our power. We've got Lawful Good, which gives us the choice of Bless or Cure Wounds for our spell selection as an additional spell. Let's go ahead and align with the Lawful side and grab Bless. There we go, a concentration spell for us. That works. Finally, we got Favored by the Gods, which means once per short rest, we can add 2d4 to a saving throw or attack roll to ensure that we don't get absolutely wiped when we really need it the most. So yeah, that finishes off our character, Divine Soul. Obviously, we could have dug into the cleric spell list, but we're trying to keep it simple here. And yeah, this sorcerer is pretty standard, actually. Not particularly optimized or well built, because we got ourselves pretty modest stats with our charisma and constitution, but we've still got something going for us in our spellcasting and our divine soulness. I would say that this character is a pretty mid sorcerer that we've got for ourselves. And yeah, this is Chaos Build number 2. The Amnesiatic Noble Divine Soul Sorcerer. I'll probably come up with a better name for them in the title card. But anyways, I hope you enjoyed the build. This has been the Relaxed Fantasy Review. If you enjoyed the video, go ahead, grab that like and subscribe button down there. There's also a join button down there if you're interested in joining the channel. And keep your eyes peeled for more of these Chaos builds coming down the line soon. Have a good one, my friends.